Aaron Rodgers is finally in Pittsburgh, and for the second day, we have an expert who is also in Pittsburgh to tell us about it. We'll also talk about, if this works, what teams need to be having their eye open and need to be a little bit afraid. We'll discuss it here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You got that right, Jack. It is your team every day here on Locked On NFL. We thank you for making us your first listen. It is the second of two podcasts on the Locked On NFL Network daily. Tyler Rowland in the morning, me in the afternoon, and of course it is Friday. That means my man Matt Williamson from the Peacock and Williamson podcast is here with us to discuss everything that's going on in Pittsburgh. Normally we say the NFL, right? But it is all centered around the Steel City today. So we'll make sure we get into that. First, I'd like to tell you that we are free to subscribe to wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you tap into that location, whether it's visual or audio. We will be there for you. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL, all one word, at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first order. Hello, everydayers. Hello, newcomers. I'm trying to give you something to come back from, and you can be an everydayer too. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to land this plane talking about problems for the ops. That means opposition. There's a select group of teams that really have to watch out if this works out for Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh. Making it make sense for Pittsburgh, it's 1 year, right? And you're like, this ain't a 2-year solution. What are you doing? You got to take it 1 year at a time and stay present. We'll talk about why the Steelers have decided to do what they're doing. But first, the big news, Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh in 2025. Matt Williamson, go ahead right now. Give me your spiel. How you feel about the move?
Yeah, it's been, you mentioned this off the air, it's been a pretty hectic 24 hours for me in a good way. I mean, I left the final Steeler OTA. We broadcast like right next to the field and watch every bit of it, and then grab my free lunch as I'm walking out of the facility, and felt like 5 minutes after OTAs ended, I get news that Aaron Rodgers is official, which I don't think that timing is an accident at all. And then I went straight to my son's high school graduation, sat there in the rain and watched him graduate from high school. And today's my 52nd birthday. So lots been going on, man. You know, it's good stuff.
Look at that. 52.
52.
4 years behind the old fella sitting here. That's okay. All right, man. You know, it feels good, man. Well, congratulations to your family, your son. Congratulations and happy birthday to you, brother. I ain't telling you good night. You know, they out on TikTok, these grown dudes telling each other good night. And
trust me, more people are asking me about Aaron Rodgers than they are saying happy birthday.
Yeah, I will tell you happy birthday. So we're going to ask you about Aaron Rodgers, too. First, let's listen to Chris Carter. We broke it last night with an emergency pod. Chris talked about it, but now I'm going to play this clip because I think he's going to talk about it a little bit further. Listen to this.
They're still going to be trying to be a more balanced offense. They're not going to be a complete run all the time offense, but with Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be an offense that's going to try to set up more things where I think that they could set up play action a bit easier, and he's going to have more control of what he's allowed to call in the field. As we know, Russell Wilson and Arthur Smith did not get along. Now, from what we understand, Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers, much different situation. Those two guys, for whatever reason, they're closer, they're cooler with each other. They're gonna respect what Aaron Rodgers wants to do, and he's gonna be able to run the offense. And I think what Aaron Rodgers is gonna be able to have is the liberty to read the defense and say, hey, they're trying to take away DK Metcalf in this play, or they're trying to take away Pat Freiermuth in this play, or you know what, they're trying to take away the run in this play, and they're going to give him the options to say, hey, we're going to give you the credence to say, you know, hey, are they playing the run? Guess what? Play action, hit them over the top, hit them for that 20-yard pass down the middle part of the field, or a 10, 15-yard pass down the middle part of the field to Pat Freiermuth or Darnell Washington or whoever gets wide open, and work from there. It also, you know, might mean like, hey, they're playing the run. All right, cool. Get that one-on-one with DK Metcalf, take the shot there, or figure out where the weak spot in the defense is.
Matt, I've been a little bit conflicted by this whole process. I was big Aaron Rodgers. I used to box people over Aaron Rodgers. I had some Brett Favre fans that used to come get haircuts, and I would tell them how talented Rodgers was. We fought for years. Even when the dude had 44 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, they still fought me, right? So I'm sitting there thinking like he's misunderstood. And then the thing with the Jets happened. He got hurt, right? So I said he's still misunderstood. Then by the end of last year, I was like, get him out of here. He ain't misunderstood. He knows people are saying these things about him. He's still acting crazy and showing up on TV when he probably should be at the facility. But there's a part of me that says, if you're going to run the ball and play great defense and ask one of the most talented people I've ever seen, I'll just throw it every now and then. Oh, this is going to be gold. I think it's going to be something to watch.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it, to be honest. And I've done a ton of Rodgers homework. I've pretty much, when you're at the facility a lot or close to the team, no one seemed worried about it. You know, like they knew this was coming. I think this was set up for months, that as soon as OTAs are over, now you're a Steeler, come to mandatory minicamp. You know, like in OTAs, TJ Watt wasn't there, DK Metcalf wasn't there. Like it's optional, you know, and Rodgers has earned that freedom to go do whatever he wants. So he was at the Kentucky Derby. You know, do what you want. You're 42 years old. You got a bunch of money in the bank. Enjoy yourself. It's not time to buckle down yet. But I'm really excited about it. And I know Chris well, and he's very spot on with how he analyzed this thing. They're not going to ask Rodgers to win the MVP and throw for 5,000 yards. You know, it's going to be a run first, win from the neck up, but he can still sling it, and he's going to throw over the middle of the field a lot more than Russell Wilson. And a couple things I wanted to throw in here that maybe the casual fan might not be dialed in on. So Arthur Smith took over for LaFleur as the offensive coordinator with the Titans.
Right.
And LaFleur wanted to take him to Green Bay with him, and Vrabel said, "No, we'll make you the offensive coordinator. I don't want you going anywhere." Well, LaFleur, who was Smith's mentor, was with Rodgers. Right. You know, see how these things work? And Rodgers thrived with LaFleur, won MVPs, and all these people compare notes. You know, I mean, like Rodgers was in town a couple months ago, just hanging with Smith and Tomlin and Mr. Rooney and those guys. And how are we going to do this? You know, he threw with Metcalf a couple months ago, just the two of them at UCLA, you know, so they have done all their due diligence, and Rodgers is super smart, and you know, he's going to win from the neck up. And I still think he has a lot of ability as a passer. He doesn't like getting hit like he used to. You know, I mean, he's going to get the ball out of his hands. He's not going to scramble as much. But if you can run the ball pretty well behind a young offensive line, and the defense can do their part, and Tomlin knows how to win games in this league, and frankly, I'll bet everything I have just about that they add another pass catcher too. I mean, they've been linked to Jonnu Smith. I don't think that happens. I think Kyle Pitts is an outside possibility. But I think they're going to get a number 2 receiver. Maybe it's Romeo Doubs, somebody like that. There's going to be one more shoe to drop, I think, before camp. And all of a sudden, it looks like a reasonably complete team for 1 year. And then next year, I'll bet everything I have that the draft is here in Pittsburgh, and that they, in the first round, will add a quarterback, you know?
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I think holding this back after the draft, when there was uncertainty, people kept talking about Shador and Jackson Dart, and that played into Pittsburgh's hands because they were able to move with a little bit of obscurity and go get who they got. One concern I have is, well, it's not really concerned, it's just an observation, and that is the media's perception of Arthur Smith as this Newt Rockney.
I know.
Slow. It is not. Apparently, the players don't feel that way.
I don't think it's true. I mean, they do run the ball a lot, but it's creatively, and it's with 2 and 3 tight ends and a lot of play action stuff and boots. And he wants to throw to the middle of the field. Russell Wilson didn't. You know, like, remember AJ Brown on crossing routes off play action in Tennessee? That's what they want. You know, and even Pickens wasn't real willing to go over the middle. I mean, Metcalf will, you know.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So we're going to see how this works. They have a lot. It's a lot to unpack, to unravel here. It's a lot to unpack with Rodgers, with our perception of him, with Mike Tomlin, and his ability to conceal and keep in-house any problem. When Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown got loose, all hell broke loose, and you're like, how did Mike keep this under wraps? So now you get a little bit of a different sort of challenge from a guy that's a passive aggressive, but I do think he has a lot more respect for the Steelers, Tomlin, than he did for anybody running the Jets. It's a whole.
I think that's the key. Wait, I think that's the whole key. It's ownership. It's the leadership. What's in place. Cam Hayward's not going to put up with Rodgers doing weird stuff. You know, I mean, it's just there's a different culture here, and that I can attest to.
All right, so let's get more into it, making it make sense for the Steelers, and we'll talk about their ops. We'll do it in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored to you by and brought to you by Monarch Money. Man, I'm telling you right now, Monarch Money is the real deal when it comes to managing your finances. Man, Monarch Money, it's not just, for you to make sure that all of your accounts are accounted for. It's not for you to make sure, not just for you to budget. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, make sure you knock off all of those subscriptions that's there, all of that stuff. You get really good, surprising insights, all in one convenience and easy collaboration when you deal with Monarch Money. You can track all your investment spending all in one place, and you just stop managing your money and start building wealth. And that's what we all should be doing. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's Monarch Money, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. All right, we're moving and grooving here on Locked On NFL with Matt Williamson talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I will tell you this real quick. I love when the perception of the public doesn't really match up. Well, I did this with Kobe. People said nobody wanted to play with Kobe. And then you found out about a year before his unfortunate passing that every great player in the league was going and working out with him privately, from Greek Freak to Jason Tatum to Dwayne Wade after he won his first championship before LeBron got there. It's like, wait a minute, y'all told me people didn't like this guy. You know what I'm saying? Or people didn't want to play with. That's what Arthur Smith. Now, when you mentioned Kyle Pitts, it shocked me a little bit because I'm thinking like, didn't we call Pitts a bust and blame it on Arthur Smith because he didn't come into the league and turn into the next Kellen Winslow? So good on you to give us that information that the feeling about Arthur Smith is different from what fans and media say. There's
what I understand too, the feeling with Rodgers' teammates is way different than public perception too. People love being his teammate,
Oh, yeah. You know why? Because of how great he is.
Yeah, he won 4 MVPs,
Yeah, and then Matt, you've been around this, and I've been around it too. And there's some things that are behind the veil that we don't discuss. There's a lot of weird people that's played in the NFL that do a lot of weird. I mean, I'm talking about, bro, I'm talking
every
about
team's
weird.
Right.
Yeah. So this little stuff here, in the grand scheme of things, is not that big, but what it provides that I really hate for teams, basketball, not so much because there's 15 guys. But when you got 53 guys, there's this word called distraction. I hate distractions when you have a mission. And it just seems like Aaron Rodgers, he doesn't necessarily do bad things that causes a distraction. It just causes a distraction. You want your quarterback to be ducked off. So you want to be wondering what he's doing, not, sitting there analyzing what he's doing every week when he's on TV. But there are some teams that are going to be affected by this outside of Pittsburgh, outside of the perception that you may have of the people involved. One of them is Baltimore. I'm going to mention Baltimore because I think Baltimore's going to win the division. I don't necessarily know because the games with Pittsburgh, they're always very, very tough. But Baltimore just made a little significant signing of their own at the wide receiver position. Let's check it out.
Well, we were asking for Ravens extension news, and that's exactly what we got. Rashod Bateman locked in Baltimore. 3-year extension, $36.75 million, and 20 of that is guaranteed. It's a feel-good story, for being honest here. Rashod Bateman proved himself in 2024, had a career year, and gets rewarded with a big deal. He gets locked in. He and Lamar Jackson established plenty of chemistry last season, which was really great to see. He's a 3-level receiver, and honestly, this is a steal of a deal for the Ravens, and Rashod Bateman still gets a really, really, really nice payday. So I think that there are no losers here, only winners, and you look at some of these other big wide receiver contracts across the league, I still think Rashod Bateman's deal, even with this extension, it's the best deal in football, still, in my opinion, because it's not just about the player who Rashod Bateman is, it's about the player he could become. Bateman still is 25 years old, so you have an opportunity. You're not just investing in the player that he is right now, you're investing in the player that he could become. So a
good signing. That number isn't very high. De'Ami Brown is the 3rd receiver in Jacksonville, and he has a 1-year, $10 million guaranteed deal. So half of that for over 3 years for half of what Rashod Bateman got over 3 years. I'm happy when kids get hurt, their first round picks, and then they find a way to figure it out after year 4, and they start making them some money.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Brown. I think Palmer had a similar one. There's a lot of 1-year, $10 million deals, and I'll take Bateman over all those guys. I think Bateman's a high-quality number 2. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option, but they did give him money. You know, they kind of assuaged that situation, which just showed how much they liked him and realized that he was getting slowed by injuries, as you mentioned. He's a lot different than Flowers. We know they're going to be tight end centric. The Ravens are just a high quality organization. And, you know, we were on the sidelines of Steeler practice yesterday and breaking down the division. You know, this is before we had the Rodgers news. And I think my exact quote was, if we're ranking the 32 franchises out there, the 2 in Ohio wouldn't be real high on my list, but the 1 in Maryland, real high on my list. You know, I really have respect for what they're going to do, or how they do their business and how they team build, the analytics they use. And I'm definitely going to pick them to win the division, with or without Rodgers, you know?
Right. I got them here, though, because Baltimore is such a rivalry. And
oh, yeah.
I did not include Buffalo because I don't think Pittsburgh is going to affect Buffalo. Buffalo's going to run away with the East. I didn't include the Kansas City Chiefs only because I have them favored to win the AFC West. And then whoever wins the AFC South, even if another team gets in the playoffs, it's not going to have an effect from the Steelers because they'll both probably get in because, well, the rest of the division stinks, right? So you're
Especially
looking
at the East. Like, if I had to bet on any team to win their division in the NFL, it would be the Bills.
Yeah, it's Buffalo.
Yeah,
easily, hands down. Well, while we're here, let's stay inside of the division. You talk about the Bengals. Like, their organization, yeah, we ain't real high on them. But what we are high on is a few of their players, like 5 or 6 of them. They're very, very good, right? Well, I like when those players point out the growth of somebody else. I want you to listen to the guys on Locked On Bengals and what T. Higgins had to say about one of their pass catchers.
Andrei Iosivas, as a day 3 pick, has been making progress for 2 years with the Cincinnati Bengals, and T. Higgins is excited about his potential in year 3.
Yeah, T. Higgins really excited about it. And look, Andrei Iosivas has been productive. And so you look at it and you see the 10 touchdowns in 2 years. You see what he's done, going from what a lot of people viewed as a project pick in the 6th round to a guy that is their wide receiver 3, is 3rd on their wide receiver depth chart. And then when Dan Hort asked T. Higgins about Andre, you get this kind of answer. Yeah, it's you feel pretty good about where Andre's.
That's pretty good that they got a nice 3rd receiver. But and I love the fact that a dude making all that money points it out. But it kind of makes me wonder, even though it's not a 3rd wide receiver per se in that room, it brings me back to something you said. Why are you paying Gesicki all that money?
Yeah, I never quite got that part of the whole offseason. Right?
As soon as I heard this, I said, I know what me and Matt are going to say. We're
right.
gonna be like, it's all nice. It's a nice story. It's a little scouts. This is the thing scouts love when a day 3 pick turns out. But I just can't help. They gave Mike Gesicki all that money.
Yeah, that bothered me from the start. But this is promising because you know Iosivas is going to get single coverage every time he's out there. And if he can exploit that for 4 or 5 catches a game, convert some 3rd downs, a big play here and there, you know Burrow's going to get him the ball. And you mentioned it. I mean, the Bengals are like the easiest analysis to me going. I mean, no one is more quarterback passing game dependent than these guys, you know, and they're in the right hands in that regard. I still have so many questions about the defense, especially if Hendrickson's not available, you know.
Let me ask you a question, and I'm being dead serious when I say this. If I gave you a choice right now, and we ain't talking about new organization, first-year GM. I just gave you a choice. Okay, your team is 9-7, right, or 9-8. I give you a choice as a wide receiver tandem because your receivers stink. I say you can have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, or you can have Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter.
That's hilarious you brought this up because I mentioned the same thing on a different platform totally, that I do think the Bengals have the best receiving duo in the league right now, but maybe not for long. I'm that high on Hunter. I mean, I think Hunter,
and what makes that thing, you might be high on Hunter, right? And I love Travis.
Yeah. I mean, Thomas is awesome.
Brian Thomas Jr. right now, I said it yesterday at practice, and they didn't believe me at OTAs. I said he's top 7, and he ain't number 7. They said, you think he's top 6? I said, I tell you what, look who he was catching the ball from for like 5-6 games last year. It was Matt Jones behind the worst offensive line maybe in the National Football League, and the running backs got hit before anybody. What do you mean, do I think he's top 6? You damn right. Because if you put him with a good quarterback, ain't no telling what he's going to do. That kid might have had 1,600 yards last year if he had a really, really good quarterback. So, yeah, it's because of Brian Thomas Jr. and the potential of Travis Hunter. I'll give you a little clue, Matt, too. they're going 3 wide and Diami's on the other side by himself. They got them on the same side most of the time.
No, really?
Yeah, that's dangerous. That's real dangerous.
To your point, going forward, I would definitely take the Jags pair over the Bucks, the Eagles. I mean, there's some other great ones out there. It's not just the Bengals. I mean,
yeah, and the Bucks got 4. That's crazy. They got a Hall of Famer, then they got Chris Godwin, but then they got McMillan, and then they drafted the kid from Ohio State this year.
Yeah,
Buka. So they're loaded. All right, we'll get to some more problems for the ops here in the third and final segment, talking about Aaron Rodgers going to Pittsburgh and who is causing problems for potentially. We'll talk about it in the third segment here on Locked On NFL. All right, there's a team out west making a lot of noise. Got former Steeler running back on their team and a little bit of the similar philosophy that both Pittsburgh and Baltimore have. In fact, the coaches, Baltimore's coach's little brother. And I always thought he was the big brother, by the way. I was shocked.
Yeah, I didn't know who was older now.
Yeah. Coach Baltimore, he's the oldest guy. But I will also tell you this. They have a good quarterback and a good defense, building the parts of a good defense. They gave somebody a contract extension yesterday that you're pretty familiar with, Matt. I want you to listen to this and tell me what to make of this. Listen to the guys from Locked On Chargers.
David, the extension we were all waiting for, as we've joked about. No, not exactly. The Chargers decided to extend Bud Dupree this week, and it was very interesting because it was not on my radar as far as a move that could possibly happen. I mean, I think mostly just because he was not super effective as a pass rusher last year, not a consistently good pass rusher last year, but according to Adam Schefter, the deal is worth up to $6 million, and as we've seen with Joe Ortiz, that up to can do a lot of the heavy lifting with some of these contracts. So I don't think it's a gross overpay or anything like that, but I do think it's just interesting, David, because Bud Dupree, I thought, was a position that maybe they could improve upon. Somebody I was like, hey, maybe you go try to find a Jadeveon Clowney or someone like that to kind of upgrade that edge 3 or 4 position. Instead, the Chargers decided to extend him.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I saw the move, I was bewildered. I was very surprised. I was just not expecting this type of extension to come for Bud Dupree. We're talking about, your 4th edge rusher who, had his obvious deficiencies last year.
The Jacksonville Jaguars have Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen. The new regime came in here, and you know what they did? Right after the draft, they gave $5 million to Emmanuel Ogbah. Mm-hmm. And then just recently, they brought back Dwan Smoot, who is just a professional. I think $6 million for Bud Dupree right now for a team that needs veteran leadership and an edge setter, I think it's a bargain.
I think it's fine. Yeah, again, he was a mid-first round pick here in Pittsburgh. And you knew he was a project when they took him, and they already had good edge guys, as they always do here. So they didn't need him right away. And it took him a while, and the fan base was down on him. And then his final season here, when his contract was up, he put it all together. I mean, having Watt on the other side helped, but he was pretty impressive. He quit running past the quarterback. He had a better feel for the game. And since then, he's been okay, not great. But if he's my 3rd guy, I'm pretty happy. I mean, he's pretty physically talented. He's a very run through the middle of your chest type of player. I think for the going rate for edge players, you're doing fine there. I mean, and I like Tui. I can never say his last name, but Tui Tuipulotu. I think he could be a breakout guy for them.
No doubt about it. They're doing it quiet, but they're doing it in a very unassuming way, getting guys that really, really fit what they do. But Pittsburgh,
and they're all physical. They're all big for their position, and they're all physical.
Didn't Bud have a real good year and got hurt right before he hit free agency? There was something weird with him. He hurt his knee or something. I don't know if it was.
Yeah, don't remember exactly how that went. You're right.
Yeah, it could have been somewhere else. But I tell you what, they're treating him like he's Jarvis Jones. That he's not.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
he's
Jarvis
an NFL
Jones
player, right?
He's a real good, solid NFL veteran, and $6 million for a guy like that is not terrible, especially when they cut Bosa and let him leave. This is a really, really good deal. I just think the guys from the Chargers were really, really down on him and shocked that they even took the time to bring him back. Now, Denver is this other team. Denver is this team, man, that people are sitting there looking at going, it's almost similar to the Chargers. Like, I like their moves, but, offensive lineman, a 5 technique here, it has worked. It really has worked. Mm-hmm. So Sean Payton, does he make a move with Pittsburgh? And he's right in that line of fire because they're that team. You know, Pittsburgh, I said 11 or 12 wins, right around there. A guy like Aaron Rodgers could really be a real big. You ever went through a neighborhood and they had a speed bump and it was bigger than you thought, and you went too fast in your car? Yeah, so I think that's what Pittsburgh could end up being for the Broncos. But here, I want you to listen to the Broncos talk about their prospects and what they have going on right now in the offseason.
The Broncos linebacker position has kind of become this just embodiment of the meme of the guy who's, you know, cranking his neck, looking at the girl who just walked by him while his girlfriend is sitting there like ticked off that he's doing it. You know what I'm saying? It's like every linebacker at this position, at this, you know, on the roster, they're that player that's, you know, like looking at us like, what the heck, man? Why are you talking about him now? You know, it's like, oh, Lavelle Bailey. Ooh, you know, you got this new undrafted guy from Utah. Ooh, you got the guy from Kansas. Ooh, there's free agents out there.
Sean Starrett, the offensive line coach for the Jaguars at a roundtable, somebody mentioned that Ezra Cleveland said, we're always trying to be replaced. And Sean said, Ezra's right. We always are looking for the next guy, and he understands that. Foye Oluokun, he led the league in tackles the last 5 years. You know what he told us? Foye told us about a month ago, I'm always thinking they're trying to replace me.
You got to look at that.
Yeah, he's got a contract extension, $45 million last year, but he goes, nope, I'm always thinking I'm trying to be replaced. Denver, though, in the case of Denver, this is what competition looks like. And Starrett told me that yesterday. He said, hey, man, that's what rises everything. It's not really the fear, it's the competition. When somebody's good enough to compete, that causes friction. Friction causes combustion, and combustion causes propulsion. So if you don't have that friction at the bottom, if somebody's real super safe and they're not being pushed by somebody, you probably ain't winning nothing.
And that's absolutely a Sean Payton thing. You know, I mean, he is going to stir that pot. He's going to churn the bottom of the roster. He's going to light a fire. He's going to turn the heat up on that friction at the bottom too. The Bunsen burner underneath. He's going to keep that thing going. Pete Carroll, Tomlin, all these guys that have won a lot of games in this league understand that we need to keep these guys on their toes, afraid to lose their jobs, you know. And I think Denver's in a good place. But much like the Steelers, can you walk into Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore, and win in December and, you know, against those quarterbacks? And Burrow's looming out there too. I mean, that's the thing is there's 4 giants in the AFC.
Listen, I will tell you this. And we've kind of, the way we've gone here today has kind of talked me into thinking that, look, there ain't going to be any issues, any personal issues. Mm-hmm. There's not going to be any misunderstandings or anything vague when it comes to Tomlin and Rodgers. And so then I look at,
assure you there won't be.
So I look at the nuts and bolts of it, if that's the case, Matt.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, they've invested a lot on the offensive line. They traded for a big time receiver. They have another nice little slot receiver that you know, once he stays healthy, they may add Gabe Davis or somebody like that.
Yeah, I saw him in the building yesterday.
Yeah, they have
walked right past him. Right.
Yep, they have Fryermuth, and then if they get another tight end, and then we forget they have a great defense, and they addressed a lot of needs in the draft, especially on their defensive line. Matt, this could be a problem. They could be friction, and I'm glad we started talking about combustion and Pittsburgh now can actually be friction to everybody that's trying to make the playoffs, especially the teams that's not Buffalo.
Yeah, they're always good on special teams. Year 2 in Arthur Smith's system, Najee didn't really fit the outside zone system. Caleb Johnson fits it perfectly. And what I keep telling people around here is, I mean, he's going to be a useful player. Him and Warren should be a pretty decent backfield. I think they'll add another pass catcher, a name that people know. I mean, better Gabe Davis or better, something like that. And what I've been telling people is Rodgers might not be what he used to be, but I very much believe he'll be their best quarterback since Ben's elbow injury, like 6 or 7 years ago. And I know that people around here are like, well, that they haven't been good enough to win playoff games. I like their chances better now than I did any of the previous seasons.
I can tell you this, all the way back since the game when Vontaze Burfict hit Antonio Brown and he missed the game the following week. I think they played Denver. I picked that before that game started. I picked Pittsburgh to win it all, and I really think they would have beat Denver. I do. I think that was the best team that did not go to the Super Bowl for Pittsburgh. You made a point, and I'll end the show with this. You
Real
said,
quick, Wig, that hit on AB changed his life dramatically.
I think it did. Absolutely. I think it changed his outlook on stuff
Everything.
too.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it was like, man, to hell with this. But I will tell you this. I think Pittsburgh, when you said, can you go into Baltimore in January or can you go into Kansas City? Aaron Rodgers don't give a damn about nothing.
That's what I'm saying. I did a podcast yesterday. I'm like, the old gunslinger might have one more in him, you know?
We're going to quote Toby Keith, the late Toby Keith. We will quote him. He might not be as good as he once was, but he can be as good once as he ever was. That's
exactly.
We're great players. That's what we are. And we talked about Toby Keith. I'm going to tell you now about Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino on Locked On NFL Scouting. If you want to know about these rosters and make yourself one of the smartest fans in the league, make sure you check out Locked On NFL Scouting with those two, and make sure you do it wherever you get your podcast and make it your second listen. Matt, I think we tackled this issue. We got all the meat off the bone, but we're going to talk about it all year, of course. This is going to be the biggest story all year long. I'm pretty sure that those people with those video games probably should have put Aaron Rodgers on the cover with a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey on with Mike Tomlin looking over his shoulder. That's how much drama this is going to be all season. But we appreciate you joining us here on a Friday and spending 31 and a half minutes with us. You guys have a very nice weekend. Make sure you tap back in Monday morning with Tyler Roden on Locked On NFL AM. We will see you later here on Locked On NFL. Take care.